Good morning. Just coming in. I was working on a project and got a little lost. So, good morning. It is the 19th of April. It's 10:01, just a little bit late. Let me go ahead and get out of that. And, yes, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to close out a few things and get us started. How are you guys today? How was your evening? Where are you at? Blah, blah, blah. Will I get us going? I'm running late today, so let's see. Good morning, Teresa. We yesterday we talked about curses, so I'm curious, how many of you used your compass or your intuition or your guidance and started looking at, do I have one of those? Does my family have one of those? You do. It's funny. I slept with my hair in braids last night, so it makes it really straight and smooth. And yeah, so thank you, Jessie. Who would like a card pull this morning? We've got 3 slots open. I had somebody requesting yesterday a card pull for their daughter for their future. I don't really do that. I'm not a big one on future predictions. So if that person would like to request or card pulls for other people that aren't present, requesting them themselves, that's kind of a violation. Teresa, yes? You did during the show and found nothing. Good, Jessie. I didn't feel like you had one either. Let's see. So today's the 19th. Teresa, you're number 1. All right. And how many of you guys thought of other people and tried to see if they might have them or family might have them or whatnot? Hi, Chris. Okay, Sue, I've got you down. 1 more slot open. You did. Sue, you did have one. And Sue's one of my students in the Life Mastery class, so she used one of her, we used some of her little student time that I create for each of my students, and we cleared that out, didn't we? So how did your day go after clearing that out? I'm curious. You've been going through hard times. Yeah, I noticed that. You had your mother pass recently and some struggles going on. There are no other people. There are other selves, though, Jessie. There's our self and there's other selves. We can't deny that the creation came into individuations. We have to recognize that part of it, too. That's part of owning the unity as well, right? We're playing around with that a lot. Hi, Elizabeth. Yes, Teresa. Yeah. So is that still part of what's going on for you? I'm just checking in. Well, that's funny. My necklace was all the way around the back. Jessie and I love to play around with concepts and have discussions about things and see what's what and where things are at for each other. So I do have room for 1 more card pull. I'm going to go ahead and start. Let's see, Teresa, what will be most beneficial? The energy deck. We haven't used this one for a while. This is the Energy Oracle deck by Sandra Ann Taylor, which kind of reminds me, I'm working on building my own Oracle deck, and I'll let you guys know more about it when it comes out, but I'm super excited about it. It feels really good. Sue says, so Sue, we removed a curse from Sue last night, or yesterday, after the show. She definitely had all the warning signs, went beautifully, took some great grounding, sun worship, and wind energy time. Oh, perfect. Getting outside, reattuning, reconnecting, that's perfect. Good morning, Andrea. So let's see. We still have room for 1 more card pull if anybody wants to make a request. Because curse energy removal is done by the angelics and not by me in particular, I just am a facilitator. It's a pretty quick process, if I remember correctly. It only takes like 5 to 10 minutes at the most, unless it's a really, really big curse. One of those wildfire ones that we talked about yesterday. And I know it's, and Karen says, healing well since hers was released. Karen was another one that we did. I had a feeling that pulling it forward like that, bringing the subject into the forefront, would call stuff forward. And I kind of feel like it's service to humanity to remove that crap in any way we can, in any possible way. Okay, so, and I just had Shauna message me that she just did a curse removal for a client. So it's going to be coming up. And this doesn't mean that it's like the witches, right, in Salem where, oh, she's a witch, she's a witch, she's a witch. This is just calling forward an issue that's been unattended to for a while. We haven't had anyone for many, many generations really believing and thinking it's possible there are even such things as curses in our common culture. So a lot of stuff just went unchecked, and because of this, because of the way religion was used to suppress knowledge, and to suppress the individuality of people and the connection of God to God. She turned me into a newt. Right. Oh, God. I really need to watch that one because I love that. I love that one. But because it was used as a tool to disempower people, and to make them not believe they could connect into source consciousness or God consciousness without going through the church, without going through a religious master of some sort, then that is why this energy is around. So it's kind of like, we're kind of like the cleanup crew, you know, and it's time to just come through and clean up, clean house. And it's also the same is true when I start working with new clients. The first thing that we do is realign and reattune their chakra system. Not because their chakras are bad, but because it used to be a part of our culture to get yourself in alignment, to recognize your growth, to see your development, to be in touch with the vessel, to know these things. But we've lost that as part of our common culture. So especially here in America. Yesterday was news to me. So yeah, and it also has been, it's kind of like been turned into almost a comical thing, right? Or a dismissive thing. And that's part of the power structure. In a sense, it's like a great big curse over us all, a curse of ignorance, right? Anyway, okay, so enough of that. Let's see, this is Teresa's card. Teresa, it looks like you're on the fence about something, indecision. And if I recall correctly, you've gotten this card before. So you are struggling with receiving your own guidance, really receiving and understanding what it is that's going on for you right now. This card is number 8. I find that interesting. 8 is also like an infinity number, right? So I'm just going to look it up and see if perhaps there's something else in the book. I'm getting kind of a cue for that, just to check in. Yeah, your 2 or more possibilities. You're feeling anxious about what the choices are, confused and upside down emotions in your present indecision. You could spend days, months, or even years going back and forth in this energy. So you're still kind of going back and forth in this energy. This indecision creates a paralysis of will, one that can keep you stuck while you're waiting to be certain about the results of your choice. It's time to let go of the analysis and self-doubt that have been keeping you stuck. Meditate on your options and see where your spirit guides you. Consider which direction resonates with you most, both in the process and in the goal. Following your heart and making the honorable choice. And so, yeah, just again, when you feel lost, when we have 2 choices before us, I can tell you again to use the compass tool and to really explore why you feel lost about it. Not necessarily what the next choice is, though I do that also when I feel lost and indecisive. But explore why you're feeling lost and indecisive about what to do next. What is it that you're desiring at the end? Because one of the things Bashar talks about when you want to manifest is first you have to have that idea, a desire, right? You have to have the idea of what you want an outcome to be. And then you have to align everything you can in a way of getting that idea into practice. And then you got to just let go. and start taking the steps, because we rarely actually end up where we think we're going to. Oftentimes, our next step is just to get us to a different vantage point, and then to another vantage point. And the end, wherever that may be, could be potentially completely different from all of that. So just recognizing that right now the indecision that you're feeling about what to do next is more about the beliefs that you hold around yourself of what those things may be that you choose, right? And that's where you want to do the work. That's where you want to focus on. Jesse had something to say. If I may add, when you were talking to Teresa, I got a feeling she was ignoring something willfully. Maybe that choice, whatever it is, just chiming in. Finding it hard to let something go. So then you haven't learned everything from that something yet. Explore that something a little bit more. And I would say that in a sense, I also get a sense of something that's being ignored. And that's not a judgment. That's not a negative statement. The part that feels judged by being told that there's something being ignored is maybe something to be explored also. I think that when we have a lot of options before us, or we have no desirable options before us, then it's time to pause, pull back, and do more evaluation of self, and self-motivation, self-goal, because there's some wound there that hasn't been addressed quite yet. So that's what I get from that. Let's see, Sue. Ganesh wants to talk to you, Sue. So much elephant energy has been coming through, guys. So much. Been beautiful working with the elephants. Let's see, Sue. Beautiful card. Sue, you got fulfillment, card number 6 with Ganesh. Let's see what it says in here. I love to read these because honestly these authors put a lot of energy and work into what they write and what they create, and I think it's beautiful. I just love it. Let's see, reading a scroll. Okay, look for someone to consult for more information. This may be a counselor, an author, a psychotherapist, or a spiritual advisor. You are in the process of discovering new skills, new guidance. This teacher is going to help you find the wisdom and provide excellent guidance and advice. Keep in mind there's also a wealth of information at your fingertips in books. Everything you read fills your head with new information, and you never know when it might have a practical use. The more knowledge that you have, the better equipped you are to tackle any challenge that lies before you. So I know that right now that's kind of what you're in the process of, and I think it's a great reminder. I always tell students to keep exploring. One of the aspects of my classes is that I fill them with links to TED Talks, to articles, to all sorts of different resources that are way beyond me, because there is no such thing as one teacher. There is no such thing as one resource that's the right resource. There's all sorts of roads that lead us back into God, right? All sorts of roads that are going to lead us back into that source consciousness, and I myself love exploring them, so I encourage you to do so. It looks like it's time for you, I think, and what I'm hearing is to get back into your classes, because you've kind of taken a break from them and doing other exploration, and which is great and perfect, and don't stop that. But remember, you're also in study right now. So that's what's popping up for me with this. Anything else with that one? No, that's about it. And I think the other piece was that you're not doing so much studying with others, but kind of dropping back into old patterns and behavior, maybe old habits, old processes. So yeah, I think so. Yeah. It was an intense gift, and you did need to take some time with it and do internal exploration with that gift also. Yes, I agree. I agree 100%. All right, Chris, the Earth Magic deck wants to talk with you. And I was just working today with the guy, my sound guy, Kyle, who does music and sound. He's working on editing our chakra workshop that I went and recorded last month. So he's edited it down to a 90-minute workshop and he's adding sound and music to the meditation parts, and it sounds so good, so much better than the old one. I love it. So look for that. That's going to be coming available soon. Oh yeah, we haven't done announcements for a while. In a few weeks, not this weekend, but next weekend, I'll be down in Eugene. We're doing a big panel on Friday night, the 28th, I believe it is. Let me look at the calendar real quick. Friday night, the 28th, and then we're doing another psychic fair that'll be from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. In Eugene. So he is adding the sound of music. Exactly. I'm excited for it too. It's funny, he had already written some tracks of meditation music. They just came through to him right before he met me, and he hadn't figured out what he was going to do with them yet. And so as he started adding them, they're already, and I told him, I listened to him, I'm like, this feels like it's exactly what's supposed to go there. And so he messaged me this morning. He said, so I added this track, and it's like perfectly in alignment. Even the beats are in alignment with what you're saying and where you're at. And I'm like, I told you, it's perfect. So I can't wait for that to come out too. Okay, so this one is for Chris. Chris, you got vulnerability. Vulnerability. Meadow. Vulnerability. Let's look that one up real quick. I know my alphabet. I remember when I was working in, first transitioning into office work, and they were like, can you file things? And I said, I haven't before, but I'm sure that I can. And they're like, no, do you know the alphabet? I was like, of course I know the alphabet. But apparently, as I went through their files, not everybody does. It's pretty funny. Okay, so vulnerability. The meadow in this card invites us in with its beauty and openness. The flowers have arranged themselves in poetic design, orchestrated by nature. Let's see. It says it's time to relax and stay for a while. And the idea of being in such an open space for some people is terrifying. And in an expansive meadow like this, we may feel exposed or defenseless, lacking the perceived safety of an enclosed area. For others, walking through a meadow can be an exquisite, satisfying experience. We can feel comfortable in the openness and vulnerability. You're in a place right now where you can take risks with your feelings, and even more important, take risks with the truth of who you are, the truth of you that you know is in your heart and in your soul, and you no longer need to be subjected to your conditioned fears of letting others know who you really are. And the funny thing about that, Chris, is I know you kind of just had it knocked right out of your head who you are, and you're building a whole new you right now. So it's time to include this vulnerability and transparency. Yes, others may judge and evaluate and criticize and perhaps even put you down. These are very real possibilities, yet by trusting that you have the strength to deal with these reactions, rather than responding adaptively and always playing it safe, you can more confidently allow yourself to be vulnerable. Always holding back from expressing your truth can create an illusion of safety, but armed with your trust and your faith, you can choose to be vulnerable and share your authentic self with the world. And that's what we all really need, is we need all of us to start stepping into our authentic, transparent, true selves. So It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I can't wait to see that and see you doing more and more and more of that. Hi, Shauna. Good to see you. I know you're not going to be able to stay too long, but it's good to see you in. Hey, Shauna, are you going to be at the Eugene Fair? I was just talking about that. I can't remember because you might be able to see both of us if you're in the area. I wanted to talk to you guys about a subject that came up from one of my other students, actually clients, I would say. She's more of a client. There we go. So we were talking about things, and she listened to yesterday's show about the curses. You are going to be there. Yes. Okay. So Shauna will also be at the Eugene Fair, you guys. So anyone who's in that area and wants to, what I'll do, Chris, is I will post an event. I just got the flyers from Lorelei, and so I will start posting that over the next couple of days. Look for it in the Healing Pathwalker group and on my page and on the Healing Pathwalker page. And then we will next week with our weekly newsletter, we'll send it out in email. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, where Shauna sends our weekly readings and we put in things that are, events or things that are coming up, then go to the website and there's on the bar on the side, there's a subscribe to the email. We don't send a lot of stuff out, so it's not like you're going to get inundated. Yeah, Shauna hasn't gotten it yet either. So I will check in with you, Shauna, because I just got it. Okay, so the client. We were talking about, she mentioned that she had other readings that talked about how in other lifetimes she was also experiencing and dealing with these same problems, and she wondered if she had curse energy and wondered if there was something along those lines and wondered if it was something from another lifetime. And I thought, that's a subject we haven't much talked about in here yet, the multiplicity of our expression. So, and it also kind of came up with just that little banter with Jessie at the beginning of the show about there is no other selves, there's just the one. So I think it's a great segue into that. What we have going on is as we've talked about this before, in the sense that the energy that's coming through, everything from our multiplicity of expression is coming into singularity. But what does that really mean? Now, most of you are pretty well versed in the concept that every time we make a choice, there's another strand of our life that actually that choice was, the other choice was the one that was made. And that experience branches off from you and continues on, and all the things that can happen on that. That's multiple realities. I mean, there's lots of information out there about that. So when we are, from the time that we're born, for this Jessie, let's just say, I'll just use me as an example. From the time that I'm born, every possible thing that could happen to me gets explored. It goes through, in and out, all through these different explorations. However, as somebody who has learned how to drop into these other realities and has explored them, actually, one of the things that I find is no matter how far off we go, there are certain points that bring us back in together. So it's kind of more like a wave that comes back into intersecting points. One of my good friends and students was over the other night for dinner, and he was talking about how he had the perfect example for this, and it really is. He was coming all the way from across town, from a little town that's outside of Portland, to come to my house. And when he looked it up on his GPS, it was going to take an hour and 45 minutes, and it should be like a 45-minute drive normally, but it was a high traffic time. So he's like, oh my God, there's got to be another way to get there. There has got to be another way. So he starts looking at the different back road routes and all the different possibilities. He could go this way. He could go that way. And so then he's like, okay, I'm getting on the GPS still that it's going to take the same amount of time to get there. So he decides he's just going to wing it and follow his intuition. So he goes and he starts on one road, then he sees an intersection point with another road, and it's kind of clogged going that way, so he decides, I'm going to go that way. So he goes that way, and he continues on that road for a little while. And because it's this whole area used to be just a bunch of little towns that were all connected by these little roads, there's lots of options of how to get in. It's not like there's only one highway that leads to this town. So, he's kind of, now he's not just going one road navigation route in, he's playing through the different routes of navigation. And by the time that he got here, he had kind of crossed over all these different routes, and it still took him the same amount of time, and ultimately he came to the same destination point. And that's really what happens in the multiplicity. So right now, we're all kind of having these multiplicities of ourselves coming into this wholeness, because this is a crossover point. And so people are starting to feel like they'll notice different changes, or they'll notice maybe something isn't where you normally put it. I used to have a lot. I would come down from upstairs, and my guitar, I'd have been practicing my guitar, it had been sitting right next to me at my table, and then it's on the other side of the room, and with my music stand. And I definitely was not playing over there, and nobody else moved them or anything like that. Little things like that will happen often when you're really starting to play with these multiplicities. There's my husband, he thinks I'm just really forgetful and spacey, but there's times where he says something and it was a different me that was there with him interacting. And as I come in, I never had that conversation with him, but he clearly remembers having that conversation, or he clearly remembers us making an agreement. And I'm like, no, the agreement was actually a little bit different, but that's that coming together of these multiplicities. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is there really is no such thing as time. Linear time is purely a mechanism by which we collectively have agreed to experience our lives, much like a movie. When they film a movie, they don't film it linearly. They're filming this snippet here, this snippet there. Like sometimes it's even filmed backwards. Let's say it's a film where it's about somebody who's in a horrible position in their life and then they recover over the lifetime. Well, they're going to start filming backwards where the good person looks good, and then that person digresses as they start, in order to fill out the role. So it's not always filmed in a linear fashion. And that's much more like what reality is. It's all expression, all life, all everything. It's already occurred. What we're doing is our consciousness is flipping through like a Rolodex or a film reel of these expressions. As Bashar states it, every micro expression, every micro moment is indexed via geographical location, time location, and physical emotional expression location. And our consciousness is pre-written, predetermined which the next one will be. Okay? That's the DNA. It says this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. Now we have a free will of choice, and we step onto a different reel. We're like, no, let's do reel B. And we go down that way. But we're still going through something that's already happened, that's already been experienced. We just are experiencing it in this way. Now, I have had the personal experience of jumping back and going back and re-experiencing things by really forcing with my consciousness to rewrite that in my DNA and to play with it differently. So I have no doubt that this is true, but I'm not going to convince you if you don't want to know that. So that's not what I'm trying to do here. So everything is already pre-written and predetermined. One way you can play with this idea, play with this concept of time and linear expression, is to really slow your consciousness down. Get into a meditative state. I like to do it while I'm driving because that's an experience where I'm moving forward, but I'm actually can be a little bit more passive. So for instance, when I'm driving on a long highway that's wide open, there's not a lot of traffic, I don't really have to worry too much. It's the middle of the day, so I don't have to think too much about deer hopping in the way. Just have that loose connection of openness. And then imagine everything is slowing down and start trying to come into contact with the flipping of the expression. Next minute, next moment, next flip. What's popping in my mind to share is neuroscientists have discovered that our brain autofills a lot, right? So when we're listening to somebody talking, for instance, we actually are not listening to every single word that they're saying. We aren't even listening to the whole word itself. We're only hearing key points along the way, and then our brain autofills based upon our experience with that person. For instance, when you meet somebody who has, let's say, a really thick accent or that you've never known before, and you first start talking to them, you make a lot of assumptions about what they're saying and have to clarify because your brain hasn't yet learned to auto-populate their information, and it's out of context. It's completely out of context for others. It's one of the reasons that we can tell where somebody is from based upon their speech patterns and their accents, right? So the same is true with our vision. So when we look from one side of the room to the other, we are not actually panning like a video camera does when it's filming. We're actually going a snippet here and a snippet there, and then using the peripheral, it autofills and it creates the illusion of scanning a room. But the reality is we're actually jumping from one to the next. And when you look at an animation, for instance, they don't actually draw every micro movement. Depending upon the speed at which the animation is going to play at, they make cells, right? This, then this, then this. If you've ever made a flip book, you're making snapshots. And that's the same thing that happens with us in our experience of the physical world. As you start to really break your belief around time and break the idea and the agreements that you have with yourself and with the creation that you're going to experience time in this linear fashion, you will start to notice things changing with your experience of time. You can slow things down, you can speed things up. Here's another example of that. The other day, I was going to be meeting my friend for lunch. And I thought, I'm going to be over in that area. I have to do a couple of different things. I have to go to the pet store, and I do have to go to the grocery store. And there's a grocery store that I like that's over by there. So I can do those two things together. So I said to my husband, do you want me to go by and drop your stuff off at the alteration station place? Because I don't do alterations for him. And he was like, oh my God, really? That would be awesome. And I said, okay. And do you want me to drop you off at your appointment in downtown? He said, really? Oh my God, that would be so great, Jessie. Thank you. So, and then my friend messages me and he's like, so you want to go for lunch? I'm like, oh, that'd be perfect. And he goes, well, what do you feel like? Do you feel like, this one restaurant that we both really love, which is on that same road? So now I've got 4 tasks that are all coming together on the same road. Yeah, I bet you don't, Jessie. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Look how everything's aligning. And I've got an hour from the time when I talked to him and said, okay, let's meet there at 1:45. And I'm like, that's plenty of time, right, to do all these tasks. Well, then as we go, my husband, at the last second, I realized the Morrison Bridge is closed, which means I need to go a different route. And he goes, no, you don't. Jessie, you don't. You have to, it is open. They opened one lane going that way. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they didn't. And they didn't. But because my husband can't see and he doesn't get to drive anymore, I like to indulge him. And when he wants to go a certain route, I've learned to let him. I mean, he doesn't get that freedom. Everyone's always making the choices and decisions of where and how to get him somewhere. So sure, all right, fine, we'll try. I don't think it's open, but we'll go that way. And no, it wasn't open. It put us on the freeway, and the freeway was clogged, and that meant we had to wait to get to the next exit, which was super inconvenient to get across to downtown. So it ended up, what should have been a 5-minute drive ended up taking about 25 minutes. So now, instead of an hour to get all these things done, I've really got about 35 minutes. So I'm like, I can do it. I'm going to just disconnect from time. And I stopped looking at my clock, and I had my phone set so that if he messaged me at all, because I knew he was leaving from somewhere else, and he maybe could get stuck in traffic, and maybe I'd have more time. So I get him to downtown, I drop him off, I go and I get to the first store, to the Safeway, and I go in, and I don't actually go to that Safeway a lot, but I prefer Safeway. I use the fuel points. So I go in, and all I need is some stuff from the produce section for dinner that night, and the produce section's right at the door, and I got a parking spot right at front. Right? So then I'm like, oh, perfect. So I go through the line, and everyone in the line is beautiful. Just these amazing people. I had a beautiful conversation with the one woman in front of me, another beautiful conversation with the checkout woman, where we're like just sharing, and she's like, oh my God, I love your hair. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love your smile. And she's like, oh really? Thank you, that's so sweet. And I'm like, I just, it's so good to have a good feeling. And she was like, you're in such a great mood. And I'm all, I'm just showing up. And so all this kind of love fest was going on, and I left there feeling just so bubbly and so joyous. So I go out, and as soon as I go to pull into traffic, there's a big break. I pull right in, and I go to the next location, and I'm like, okay, just let there be a good parking spot in front. And there's never parking in front of this place, because there's like a loading and unloading zone. There's a lot of parking spot or driveways and blah, blah, blah. It's just a hard place to find parking. And so there wasn't actually a parking spot in front of that place, but there was one right across the street, and it's a 4-lane, one-way road, right? So I pull into that spot. As soon as I get out of my car, there's no traffic. So I'm able to cross the street right away. And I go right in, and there's a guy there, and he's like really indecisive about like what he wants done. And he's like, I don't know, maybe we should do this. And she says, why don't you just go try it on, and then we'll look and see it after that. So he goes to try it on, and she's like, how can I help you? So right away I'm getting served. I tell her this, and that. And she's like, perfect. Boom, boom, boom. I'm out of there in less than a minute. So I'm out, paid, that's done. And as I'm crossing that street, as I go to cross the street again, 4 lanes of traffic, there's no traffic. It's all wide open. So I cross over, and as soon as I get across, cars start coming. And I realize I'm parked in front of the Helen Bernhard's Bakery. And I have people coming over for dinner. And I was like, maybe I'm supposed to pick up a dessert. Maybe that's why the parking was on that side. So I go in, and they have a lemon meringue pie. And that's like my favorite pie ever. And I don't generally like pies that are bought from other places because the crusts are icky. But this place has amazing crust. So I bought and it was the only one lemon meringue pie. And all the other pies, no, I had no interest in. So I pick up a pie, and I see these eclairs. And somebody had said to me a while back, oh, if you're ever at Helen Bernhard's and they have the eclairs, get them. They are so good. So I'm like, meeting my friend for lunch, maybe I'll also pick us up some eclairs for afterward. So I pick us up some eclairs, and then I get back in my car. As soon as I go to pull out, now I have to cross with my car those 4 lanes and turn in a half block. So as soon as I get into my car, it's wide open. So I pull right across, and I turn, and I go back up the street, because the street's broken into 2 one-ways at that point. And I come back up, and I'm like, okay, please let there be a good spot in front of the pet store so I can run in. And I pull up, and right as I'm pulling up, 2 cars pull out. So I don't even have to like back in or parallel park. I just pull right into the spot. I go inside. There was a line, and as soon as I come up to the register or come into the line, 2 other employees show up. So that next person in front of me gets served, and then I get served right away. So I come out. I wasn't in the pet store more than 3 minutes. And as I come out, now my car's a hybrid. As I come out, everything is so in alignment, so boom, boom, boom. My car, as soon as I opened the door, turned on, and all 4 of the windows rolled down halfway, exactly halfway. I have never had that happen before. And I put the key in, and I turn it, and nothing really changes. And I'm like, okay, so the car really was on. Okay, interesting. So then I look up, and the car right in front of me, the license plate is 555DOO, which I also thought was hilarious. So I back up a little bit, and because now there's someone behind me, and I look, it's clear. So I pull out, and now I just have to find parking at the restaurant. And I happen to look at the time, and to check to see if Josh, my friend, had messaged me at all. And he messaged me to say, I'm running about 15 minutes late. And I look at the time, I'm like, oh, wow, that's perfect. So I'm actually right on time. I'm 3 minutes away from the restaurant, and it's like 3 minutes till 45 after, it's 42 after. And so I'm like, perfect. Okay, so now if I can't find parking, I have a little bit of playtime. And I look around as I'm pulling up, and there is no parking on the street anywhere. And there is a parking garage with this little shopping structure. I'm like, I'm just going to park in the parking garage. And I get this, can I? And I go, yes. So I go pull into the parking garage. And as I pull into my spot, I look up, and on the wall it says love. Huge print, love. And I'm like, oh, I know. It's such a lovely day. I got so much accomplished. I did all of my chores. And then I realized that it's a pet store. And I'm like, oh, it's a pet store. And I was just at a pet store. And I actually do need a few other things that I didn't give myself time to look for at the other pet store. And so I went in, and I thought, oh, and if I shop at this store, then I'm not like being naughty using their parking lot. So I go in, and I'm like, I need a collar for my rabbit, a new collar. Do you guys have anything? They had not only a collar that would fit her, but the perfect kind of collar. It's like this, I couldn't have even imagined a cooler collar. It's perfect stretchy, it's Velcro, it can be any size, it holds bells, and they had these bells that were perfect, nice and loud bells, a different sound from the cat bells, so my husband can hear the bunny wherever she's at and know that's the bunny, not the cat. So it was like perfect. And then I was like, do you guys have a harness? Because the harness I have for her, she hates. It's like a jacket. They're like, oh, we have a cat harness. And I look, and it's perfect. So I buy it. They end up giving me coupons. They're like, you're new here, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I didn't even know this kind of a place existed. It's called Muddy Waters or something like that. Mud Bay. And she said, oh, well, here, let me give you treats. She gave me treats for my rabbit and for my cat. And I walk out the door, and once again, traffic, now it's 2-way, but it's still 4 lanes, is completely clear. So I cross the street, and I walk in, and Josh is sitting there. He's like, I'm right here. And it's 2:02 when I sat down at the table. And I was like, I can't believe, because I turn my phone off when I hang out with people. I'm like, I'm only 2 minutes late because I actually just got here. So by disconnecting from time, all of that stuff, everything occurred within exactly the span of time that I needed it to. Everything lined up and everything was arranged. So everything just stacked up. Now I know when I first started this conversation, my plan was to talk about other lifetimes. But I wanted to first talk about time with you guys and really get you guys thinking about and playing with time, playing with this concept of time. Tomorrow we'll talk about other lifetimes and how that impacts us and how that plays with us. In fact, I'll write it down. I'm going to do that right now. Other lives. So today we're going to do in our meditation, we're going to play with time. How does that sound to you guys? Because we have time. It's till 10:44. So let's go ahead and get ourselves seated comfortably. We missed meditation yesterday doing all that discussion of the won't be discussed again. Make sure you're sitting comfortably. That's one of my favorite songs. Actually, that's one of my favorite albums of theirs, really. I love that album. All right, so go ahead and just take a moment. We're going to really come into the body. We didn't do it yesterday. I hope that you guys took the time to ground and connect yesterday since we didn't do it together. I hope you guys are taking the time to do this throughout your day at different points because there's plenty of time. So go ahead and take a deep breath, breathing in and exhaling, releasing, making sure your body is comfortable, feeling your seat in the chair, your feet on the floor. If you're laying down, your back on the bed. Adjust the body, adjust your posture, bringing yourself more into alignment, more into comfort. Breathing in and exhaling. As you breathe in, just breathing the smells and feeling the temperature of the air as it comes into the body. Something in the throat. And as you're exhaling, releasing all these parts of the self that got stirred up by today's conversation, thinking about all the times that you're running late, the times that you didn't have enough time, the things you don't have enough time for. Just start bringing those things into the focus, breathing in this present moment, and exhaling this sense of not enough time. Breathing in this present moment and exhaling, unhooking and releasing yourself from these other times that you're anchored into. What happened yesterday, what happened this morning. Breathing in this present moment, drawing in those lines of connection, coming more present into the self, and exhaling, unhooking from everything you have to do in the future, all the things that connect you and anchor you into that time, what's left to do, what you have to accomplish, just unhooking. Breathing in this present moment, present state of awareness. And exhaling, unhooking yourself from any other times other than right now, right here. Breathing in, bringing in those lines of connection. And releasing. Begin to feel the vibration in your feet, the vibration at your seat. That's already there, and invite Gaia to come into your vessel. Gaia only lives in the present moment. She does not anchor herself to any other time, any other expression. Just breathing in, bringing that energy up through the body. And releasing. Breathing in, feeling that energy rising up through you, coming up through your vessel into your abdomen, into your chest. Feel how quick it comes in when we make that open invitation. And exhaling, releasing. Breathing in and allowing Gaia to fill out our arms and shoulders with her vibration, her absolute presence, her absolute awareness. And exhaling, releasing. Breathing in, feeling that energy coming up through the head as the crown opens. Invite that source consciousness to come down into us through our lines of connection to it. All the way down through the vessel, opening and inviting source infinite consciousness to come in. And the infinite consciousness knows all of time. It experiences all of time, all possible expressions, all possible timelines, and it holds them all in one, bringing that conscious awareness down through the vessel, and feel how already we are fully connected to all time. As we allow Gaia and Source to play together with time. There's somebody thumping a beat in the room above me, and I'm home alone. Timing. Allow yourself to start to feel that rhythm of your life. What's the beat at which your life flows? Is it fast? Is it slow? Open yourself up to just experiencing what the timing is of how you flow through your day. Begin visualizing what your day may be as you get up and leave from this morning Oasis time. Play that out in your mind until you feel the rhythm. If you're starting to have a filling up of the sinuses, recognize when we start playing in this way, our pineal gland opens up because we're viewing at a different time than where we're existing. So it's giving us these hormones, these release of this DMT. Let that go down, flow that through the body. It'll support this experience. And visualize yourself now that you're seeing the rhythm of slowing that time down. Try to see each step as though you were watching a video of that time, and you're now looking at frame by frame, the movement, the progression. You're not trying to change it, you're just observing it at a slowed down rate. Try to view it to the point where you're seeing the micro expression between the seconds. The micro expression between the milliseconds. Just observing. Kind of like when we're at a club and there's a strobe light and we just see the expression moving. Now try to speed up the expression. play with that expression and the time. Play with the signature of the timing. How many beats per second are you observing? Now speed it up a little bit more to where it's at the normal rhythm that you already experienced when we started. Your normal rhythm. Now speed it up again to where it's faster. It's a faster rhythm. Things look a little cartoonish. High speed. Faster. All we're doing right now is playing with time. And slower. And slower. Now in this moment of everything being slowed down, I want you to imagine that you're stepping out of time. You're observing the expressions moving, but you've stepped out of the timeline. You're observing separate from the progression of time. See how your movement now is disconnected from that timeline of the day before as you've been progressing, as we've been viewing it. Allow yourself to become the observer of time instead of the participant. See the self that is still participating in the timeline and observe the self that's observing. We're playing with this concept of disconnecting from the timeline. Now, as you move through your day from this point forward, try to hold the observer state, observing yourself, experiencing time, and try to play with it a little. Play with how long it should take to get somewhere, and see what time it is when you get there as you release yourself from that idea. Begin playing with time throughout your day. Become observational and then participate. First, we must observe the game. We have to understand the game, and then we can play with the game. Now, for those of you who want to, you can continue in the meditative state. Those of you who have things to do, you've got time. You need to come back into the present. Come back into the here and now. Come back into the vessel. Come back into the time. It's 10:59, almost 11, here in the Pacific time region. It's April 19th. Come back into the here and the now, the present time. It's Wednesday. I had to look. Thank you for coming. Love you guys. Tomorrow we'll discuss other timelines. Love you and have a wonderful day. and I'll see you tomorrow.